Cool Mini or Not has been the example of what not to do with your business all the way around. I've crowdfunded a lot of stuff before, and I couldn't imagine having 10 plus unfulfilled crowdfunds. This is the nightmare that crowdfunds have always been, and that's why a lot of people are scared of it. We always deliver. I've had 13 plus crowdfunds, all of them delivering. In fact, my latest, the Emerald Array, if you backed it, we just got our books from the printer, and they are starting to go out, my friends. So you can enjoy that right now. And I make comic books and books. Eventually, I'm going to get into games, guys. But if you like fantasy and sci-fi and cool superhero stuff, I would urge for you to join my newsletter. This is in the description below, and I never know when I'm going to find you guys again. This is kind of the weird thing about the algorithms these days. So I want you to be on here because I've got 9 graphic novels in development. I've got a full science fiction trilogy. I'm very, very prolific as a writer. I work super hard. This is what we do, and of course, I use the YouTube to promote this stuff. So if you're into these genres and stuff like that, this is a great place to be. This is the spot where you've really waited for an alternative to the mainstream, and we are providing it for you all the way around. So get on here. You get 3 free books just for doing so. Really appreciate all of you who do so because, again, that way I can stay in touch with you. And I love it when I get comments back, when I send out my newsletters and the like. That is something that I try to reply to everybody. So thank you so much. It's a great way to stay in touch, and thank you for being here. So here's the deal. CMON, or Cool Mini or Not, has consistently shown there are some of the worst business practices in the board game industry. I don't know. They've always had controversies and the like. They had problems with some of their big Kickstarters back in the day where they had to charge additional shipping later because they blame economic conditions and the like back then. They never self-reflect. And then they've gone on and, of course, been like that model where it's a really bad model where they have huge successful crowdfunds. So what do? They open another crowdfund to pay for the last crowdfund. You've seen this before with some indie producers out there, and it never ends well for them. Well, Cool Mini or Not isn't indie. I mean, they've got a giant company. They hired activist Eric Lang to develop some of their games. They've obviously become very, very bloated, and they become a woke SJW company in the process. And whenever that sort of thing happens, they never end up doing very well. So what's happening? They're announcing they're pausing development of all games and blaming Donald Trump, of course, and tariffs, as their company's already been failing well before tariffs came into place. So let's get into this, and please hit the like and subscribe button if you have not already, guys. Really appreciate you being here. Ever since Donald Trump announced the tariffs against China, the board game industry has been using them as an excuse to cover up for long-time bad business practices that have plagued the market. We've seen Cool Mini or Not designer Eric Lang throwing fits at other creators over tariffs. I mean, he just went crazy, and it was really hilarious because another person was just like Robert Burke Games, who does great work. He says, "Why don't you just make your games in America and stop using slave labor?" And he told him, "Kiss my black ass," like literally made it a black thing. It's like, wait, black people use slave labor? Okay, that's weird. But hey, that's what he did. Steve Jackson Games made this big tariff announcement. Their CEO flounced like 2 days later. And something that's been happening with all of this, of course, Boardlandia announced it closed. We reported on that last week. Is that all of these companies were flailing beforehand. We've been reporting that Steve Jackson Games had a very bad 2023 and 2024. They've kind of diversified their company. They added a transgender activist for some stuff and made that person a senior board game designer and the like. They hired a female CEO who had no idea what she was doing. She's gone now, obviously. And they were really trying to push this narrative of identity politics while using their blog. Steve Jackson himself, he was going out there making posts about Roe versus Wade and stuff. It's like, you're making Munchkin board games. Shut up. Like, leave us alone. So we see this a lot. We've seen Stonemaier Games do much the same. And, of course, all these companies have one thing in common, that they've really overextended and caused problems for themselves over the years. Now, the board game industry has been in a rut for a long time for a lot of reasons. Part of it is, like, there was this, like, innovation of mechanics and these, of course, new plastic components that like make everything look cool in the mid 2010s, basically, that really blew up. And once like that kind of cooled off, the pandemic came back and everybody was home and bored, so they played board games, right? And now that cooled off, and so there's been a big upheaval in a lot of things, whereas all these companies in the pandemic moved to crowdfunding because game stores were not open. Game stores now don't really have product, and of course all these companies are moving away from that, so there's less sales there. So they're all closing up, and all these people became extremely reliant on these Chinese productions at the time. And so all of this has been a problem. On top of it, they've all gone super woke. The board game industry has pushed so hard to push pronouns into board games. It's been absolutely absurd. And what's a family hobby? So a lot of families just check out and play the old games. Like, you don't need a new board game. I mean, the reality is a lot of the stuff right now is just mechanics that are being copy-pasted and twisted a little bit. And so they're not that interesting. I still just go back and play Ticket to Ride with my family for the most part. I mean, you don't really need much else than that to have a good night of fun. And so these companies are struggling because the market has become overly saturated, and they become overly bloated with a bunch of people who don't do the work. They're woke activists after all, and they don't really produce much. So, of course, Cool Mini or Not has already been posting that their financials were dismal, that they are at a cash problem. They're losing a bunch of cash. They've got all these things open. And so this was coming anyway. And they, of course, rather than actually tell you what's going on their website, blame Donald Trump and tariffs, because that's the easy thing to do and the easy way out to make it look like there's not things going on. So how does a company do this? Like $22 million over the last couple of years. They have 10 crowdfunds that have been done with $22 million not fulfilled. 10 crowdfunds not fulfilled. There's 8 other projects also not done and complete and fulfilled. So they have 18 games which are just not fulfilled in the backlog. How do you let your company get like this? Obviously, things are being completely mismanaged, and there's a major, major problem there. You can't have $22 million and then have, the cost of the components went up a little bit, we're done. There's a problem there, and the problem is not tariffs. They'll lie about it. They'll tell you that all day long. The problem is their business model. The problem is what they're doing. And gosh, shame on Gamefound for allowing this. Like back in the day, Kickstarter used to have rules that you'd have to fulfill your projects before they'd actually do other stuff. What's really funny is Kickstarter banned me last year, even though I'm very good at fulfilling my projects. I'm like a model creator, all because they don't like my YouTube commentary here. Like people complained and they whined about me. It's like, oh, joy. Kickstarter just sucks. But all these crowdfund companies really have caused a problem. And this is another one. Like Gamefound shouldn't allow this because, if they just said, no, you got to fulfill your projects, we're not opening another one for you, maybe Cool Mini or Not wouldn't be in this position right now with 18 games they have to fulfill. Crazy. So this is what they said on their blog. Our Cool Mini or Not team means a lot to us. We felt it was important to share with you some difficult decisions with our company today, given global conditions. So yes, most notably the situation with tariffs. Oh yeah, has nothing to do with this. Oh gosh. CMON has decided to focus our current commitments to our customers and partners, prioritize the timely delivery of existing projects. So effective immediately, we will be pausing all future game development and new crowdfunding campaigns until trade conditions have stabilized. Note, it's not until they've fulfilled stuff, guys. Not till their games are delivered into your hands, not till we got all of our commitments done. No, it's just trade conditions have stabilized. So they are totally passing the buck. Despite they've had problems for years that have been well known within the industry, they had their financial reports come out. It was a disaster over the last couple of years. They have really, really raked over their fans and of course, just manipulated their fans and caused lots of problems for board gamers to the point where, a lot of people tune out of this stuff at this point because, why do you want a game 3-4 years later if they're not going to be able to? It's a pretty rough commitment to pay $200 and then not get something for like that long, right? I mean, this has been a bad business practice company, and all they do is whine about tariffs and Donald Trump because that's the political thing they can do. So here we go even more. Unfortunately, this involves extremely difficult staffing decisions affecting all of our creative teams with reductions. We did not make this choice lightly, and our thoughts are with everyone impacted. We are incredibly grateful for their roles and success over the years. Yeah, right. No, you just cut them. These talented people will be missed, both professionally and personally. Well, maybe those people weren't doing their jobs getting the games out. I mean, apparently. The industry continues to rapidly evolve, unpredictable like tariffs or COVID, which they raked money in off of, present challenges for everyone in board games. With that said, our responsibility is to take these difficult measures to ensure we can keep current projects on track and deliver them in a timely manner. What a joke. We will, of course, resume new development as soon as possible. Now, that's pretty funny, again, because, again, developing games has nothing to do with short-term tariffs right now. People who are actually working on mechanics and things like that don't get impacted by tariffs. You're actually, when you start development of a board game, if you don't know, it takes a couple years minimum to get one going that it has any sort of value. So because of that, you have to develop the properties, you have to develop all these things, and especially with Cool Mini or Not, a lot of complicated games with this stuff. That takes years to do. So you wouldn't pause development because of tariffs. You wouldn't stop development because of that, because then you're not going to have any games coming out 2-3 years from now. You're pausing development because your business model's in massive trouble. You've raised too much money for all these games, have not delivered, and you've gotten yourself into a rut, and you're totally lying to the fans, and you're treating people like they're stupid in the process. Moreover, the people who are getting laid off right now are being treated like they're stupid in the process, and that's what these evil corporations do. They don't respect you whatsoever. They lie to you constantly. And look, what a crazy thing. I couldn't imagine if I raised $22 million, guys, we would be changing the culture so much. It'd be crazy. And let's hope we can do that in the future, because I always deliver. And so, guys, please hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this. Sign up for my newsletter. Make sure you don't miss anything in the future, because we got to build our crowdfunds out. I always deliver. We crush it, guys. We're building some of the best stuff in the business: comics, sci-fi novels, fantasy novels, and hopefully we'll get into games also. I appreciate you guys for being here. You've been the best. And yeah, let's change things. Let's make it better. And sad that things like Cool Mini or Not get all this funding. And gosh, it hurts the rest of us who are doing crowdfunding and doing things right. All right.